The Galactic Council had seen many species rise and fall across the stars, but nothing quite prepared us for the absolute disaster that was first contact with humanity. My name is Vex-Korun, Senior Military Analyst for the Hegemony Fleet, and I'm still filing incident reports about what happened at Station Omega-7. 3 months later, and High Command still doesn't believe me. It started innocently enough, if you could call imprisoning an entire species innocent. The humans had been discovered 6 rotations ago, puttering around their little yellow star with primitive fusion drives and laughably weak energy weapons. Standard protocol, really: contain, study, exploit. We'd done it to 47 other species without breaking a sweat, but humans? Oh, humans were different. They had this annoying habit of not staying contained. Another escape attempt, sir, reported Lieutenant Kexmiran, his scales flickering blue with amusement. Deck 7, Section C. The human used a maintenance shaft again. I sighed, my breath creating small frost clouds in the station's recycled air. Which human this time? The engineer. Marcus Thompson. He's been particularly creative with his escape methods. Creative. That was one way to put it. Thompson had already tried 17 different escape routes, each more ridiculous than the last. He'd reprogrammed cleaning drones, rewired atmospheric processors, and somehow convinced our food dispensers to create lockpicks. The security chief had developed a nervous twitch just from hearing Thompson's name. Bring him to Interrogation Bay 3, I ordered, already feeling the familiar headache building behind my optical sensors. And double-check the restraints this time. The human has shown remarkable flexibility in his previous interviews. 20 minutes later, I found myself staring across a reinforced table at possibly the most frustrating creature in known space. Marcus Thompson sat there, arms crossed, wearing that infuriating human expression they called a smirk. His brown hair was disheveled, his blue coveralls were stained with what I desperately hoped was lubricant, and his eyes held that dangerous glint that meant he was planning something. Well, Thompson drawled, leaning back in his chair with casual arrogance. If it isn't my favorite tentacle-faced bureaucrat. Miss me already, Vex? It's Senior Analyst Vex-Korun, I corrected stiffly, trying to maintain some dignity. And you will address me with proper respect. Thompson laughed, a sharp sound that somehow managed to convey both humor and contempt simultaneously. Respect? Oh, that's rich coming from the guy who's been holding my entire species prisoner for 6 months. Tell me, Vex, how's that working out for you so far? I consulted my data pad, trying to project calm authority. 17 escape attempts, all unsuccessful. Your people remain secure in their designated containment areas across 12 stations. Your homeworld is under complete blockade. I would hardly call that unsuccessful. Unsuccessful? Thompson's grin widened, showing those unsettling white teeth humans seemed so proud of. Oh buddy, you have no idea what unsuccessful looks like yet. But don't worry, you're about to get a front row seat to the show. Before I could respond, the station's emergency klaxons began wailing. Red lights bathed the interrogation room as my communicator crackled to life with panicked reports from across the facility. Sir. We have multiple system failures on decks 4 through 9. Life support is fluctuating in the prisoner sectors. The cargo bay doors are cycling randomly. Thompson whistled appreciatively, as if he were listening to pleasant music instead of the sound of our carefully ordered station descending into chaos. Right on schedule. I do love punctuality, don't you? My blood ran cold as the implications hit me. What did you do? Me? Thompson placed a hand over his heart in mock offense. Why, I've been sitting right here with you, chatting like old friends. How could I possibly have done anything? The communicator crackled again. Sir, we're detecting unauthorized access to the station's main computer core. Someone's been systematically compromising our systems over the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That was when Thompson had started his seemingly random escape attempts. But they hadn't been random at all, had they? They'd been reconnaissance missions. Mapping the station, learning our systems, identifying vulnerabilities. You magnificent, devious little mammal, I breathed, equal parts horrified and impressed. You weren't trying to escape. You were gathering intelligence. Thompson's smile turned predatory. Give the squid a prize. Though technically, I prefer the term digital archaeology. Your security systems are fascinating, by the way. So many layers, so many redundancies. It's like a puzzle box designed by someone with severe paranoia and trust issues. Another alarm joined the chorus, this one indicating hull breaches. My tentacles writhed in growing panic as reports flooded in, escape pods launching, containment fields failing, prisoner transport suddenly developing mysterious mechanical failures that would strand them light years from their destinations. This is impossible, I muttered, frantically reviewing the security logs. Our systems are completely isolated from prisoner access. There's no way you could have. Oh, that's the beautiful thing about engineering, Thompson interrupted, leaning forward with gleeful enthusiasm. Everything's connected to everything else, whether you want it to be or not. Atmospheric recycling connects to power distribution. Power distribution connects to computer networks. Computer networks connect to everything. He gestured expansively, as if conducting an orchestra of destruction. It's like a giant game of dominoes, except instead of little tiles falling over, it's your entire military infrastructure collapsing in real time. Metaphorically speaking, of course. The lights flickered ominously as another system failure cascaded through the station. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear the distinctive sound of blast doors slamming shut, followed by the equally distinctive sound of them immediately opening again. You see, Vex, Thompson continued conversationally, the thing about humans is that we're really, really good at breaking things. It's like our species' special superpower. Give us a perfectly functioning system, and we'll find 17 different ways to make it explode, 3 ways to make it do something it was never designed to do, and at least 1 way to turn it into a musical instrument. As if summoned by his words, the station's intercom system suddenly began playing what I could only assume was human music, though it sounded more like organized noise pollution to my ears. How? I demanded, my voice rising to match the chaos around us. How did you do this? Thompson shrugged modestly. Trade secret. But I will say this, you really should update your security protocols. Some of your access codes are older than my grandmother's cooking, and trust me, that woman could burn water. The floor beneath us shuddered as what felt like massive explosions rocked the station. My communicator was now a constant stream of panic and confusion as our carefully ordered military installation transformed into a monument to human chaos. Status report. I barked into the device. Sir, the humans are escaping. All of them. The containment fields are down, the transport ships are launching, and somehow they've gained access to our own vessels. And sir, another voice added with the tone of someone delivering their own obituary, they've locked us out of our own systems. Every time we try to regain control, the computers just play that horrible human music louder. Thompson nodded approvingly. Classical rock. It grows on you after a while. Well, it grows on humans anyway. Not sure about your species' musical appreciation, but hey, there's a first time for everything. Through the interrogation room's viewport, I could see human ships launching from our docking bays, along with several of our own vessels that had apparently decided to switch sides in this conflict. The sight was both impossible and undeniable. Thousands of humans, supposedly secure in our impenetrable prison, were simply walking out the front door. This doesn't make sense, I said, more to myself than to Thompson. Even if you could compromise our systems, even if you could coordinate this escape, where are you going? We control this entire sector. We'll just recapture you within days. Thompson's grin turned absolutely feral. Oh, Vex. Sweet, naive, tentacled Vex. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't just an escape. He leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed despite the alarms, explosions, and general apocalypse occurring around us. This is a demonstration. You see, while you've been studying us like lab rats for the past 6 months, we've been studying you right back. Your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. The station shuddered again, and through the viewport, I watched in growing horror as more human ships departed, many of them loaded with what appeared to be our own equipment and data cores. Every prison you put us in, every interrogation, every test you ran. We were learning about your ships, your weapons, your communication networks. Hell, Thompson here probably knows more about your station's engineering than half your own crew by now. I spun to face him. That voice. That wasn't you. Thompson chuckled. Nope. That was Sarah Miller, our communications specialist. She's been listening to this whole conversation through your own intercom system. Turns out your secure networks aren't quite as secure as advertised. Another voice crackled through the speakers, this one with a distinctly different accent. Nice work, Marcus. Phase 2 is ready to initiate on your signal. Phase 2? I whispered, though I was beginning to suspect I didn't want to know the answer. Thompson stood up, casually brushing imaginary dust off his coveralls. Oh, that's the fun part. See, we're not just escaping, Vex. We're going home. And we're taking a few souvenirs with us. The viewport exploded in a brilliant flash of light as something massive erupted from the station's lower decks. When my vision cleared, I could see a familiar shape emerging from what used to be our primary research facility. It was human. It was enormous. And it was definitely not supposed to exist. Is that? I began, my voice failing as the impossible sight registered in my consciousness. A fully operational human battleship, constructed entirely from materials and technology liberated from your own facilities? Thompson nodded proudly. Yep. Turns out humans are really good at reverse engineering alien tech. Who knew? The massive vessel, easily twice the size of our largest cruisers, drifted past the viewport with impossible grace. Its hull gleamed with a mixture of human engineering and what I now realized was our own stolen technology, redesigned and repurposed into something that should have been impossible. 6 months, Thompson said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that made my scales tingle with instinctive fear. You held us for 6 months, thinking you could study us like specimens. Thinking you could control us. He walked to the viewport, placing one hand against the transparent aluminum as he watched his people's exodus. But here's the thing about humans, Vex. We don't like being caged. And we really, really don't like being underestimated. The station shook again as more explosions echoed through the corridors. Systems that had functioned perfectly for decades were failing in cascade patterns that seemed almost choreographed in their precision. This is just one station, I said desperately, trying to find some thread of hope in the disaster unfolding around us. You can't possibly what? Thompson turned back to me, and for the first time, I saw something genuinely dangerous in his expression. Can't possibly have done this to all 12 prison stations simultaneously? Can't possibly have been coordinating this escape across your entire containment network? My communicator chose that moment to deliver the final blow. Sir, we're receiving distress calls from all human containment facilities. They're reporting similar system failures, mass escapes, and, sir, they're reporting human ships. Big ones. Ships that shouldn't exist. Thompson nodded with grim satisfaction. 12 stations, 12 newly constructed human vessels, and about 50,000 very angry humans who've spent 6 months learning everything there is to know about your technology, your weaknesses, and your tactical doctrines. He paused at the interrogation room door, which had apparently unlocked itself at some point during our conversation. Oh, and Vex? You might want to check your long-range sensors. I think you'll find that the primitive humans back on Earth have been rather busy while you've been playing jailer. As the door slid shut behind him, leaving me alone with the sound of alarms and the sight of human ships disappearing into hyperspace. One final message crackled through the dying communication system. Senior Analyst Vex-Korun, this is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. Thank you for the extended technical consultation period. Consider this humanity's formal resignation from your prisoner exchange program. Oh, and Vex? You might want to start updating those security protocols. We left you a few notes in your database. The lights went out, leaving me in darkness punctuated only by the emergency strobes and the distant sound of what I was beginning to recognize as human laughter echoing through the dying station's corridors. Somehow, I had the terrible suspicion that this was only the beginning. 3 standard rotations after what High Command diplomatically termed the Thompson incident, I found myself aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion, staring at tactical displays that made absolutely no sense. The humans had done the impossible. They'd vanished, not just hidden, mind you. Vanished. 50,000 escaped prisoners, 12 stolen battleships, and enough purloined technology to outfit a small invasion force had simply evaporated from our sensors like morning mist on a hot planet. Still nothing on long-range scans, sir, reported Commander Yith-Solex, her voice carrying that particular strain that came from 3 sleepless rotations of fruitless searching. It's like they never existed. Fleet Admiral Gox Terminus, a mountain of scales and barely contained fury, slammed one massive fist against the command console. Impossible. Ships that size cannot simply disappear. They require fuel, supplies, maintenance facilities. I kept my thoughts to myself, but privately wondered if the Admiral had been paying attention during any of the briefings. These were humans we were talking about. Impossible seemed to be their default operating mode. Sir, I ventured carefully, perhaps we should consider the possibility that they've returned to their homeworld. Earth is still under blockade, but if they've developed some form of stealth technology. The Admiral's laugh was like grinding metal. From a species that barely achieved interstellar flight? Preposterous. As if summoned by his dismissal, Lieutenant Vex-Korun burst onto the bridge, his usually pristine uniform disheveled and his optical sensors wide with panic. Sir! Urgent communication from the home fleet. It's Earth, sir. The main viewer flickered to life, showing the familiar blue-green marble that had caused us so much trouble. Except it didn't look quite the same as it had 3 rotations ago. Where before there had been a modest collection of orbital stations and defensive platforms, now there was more, much more. By the void, Admiral Gox Terminus whispered, his voice barely audible above the bridge's humming electronics. What is that? I leaned forward, trying to process what our sensors were showing us. Massive structures orbited Earth like a crown of thorns, each one bristling with weapon ports and docking bays. Ships moved between them in carefully choreographed patterns, and every single vessel looked like it had been built from our own stolen technology. Fleet composition analysis coming in now, sir, reported the tactical officer, his voice cracking slightly. We're reading, oh, this can't be right. Computer, run diagnostics on sensor array. What is it? I demanded, though part of me already dreaded the answer. Sir, we're detecting over 300 vessels of various classes, 16 orbital defense platforms, and what appears to be a shipyard. A fully operational shipyard capable of constructing dreadnought-class vessels. The bridge fell silent except for the soft beeping of instruments and the distant hum of life support. Admiral Gox Terminus stood frozen, staring at the display as if he could will it to show something different through sheer force of denial. 3 months, I said quietly, voicing what everyone was thinking. They built all of this in 3 months. The communication console chimed with an incoming transmission. Lieutenant Vex-Korun looked to the Admiral for orders, but the massive creature seemed to have temporarily shut down. After a moment's hesitation, I nodded to accept the call. The viewer shifted to show a human face that I recognized from intelligence files. Captain Elena Rodriguez, formerly a prisoner aboard Station Omega-7, now apparently commanding what looked like a ship's bridge that put our own to shame. "Greetings, Hegemony Fleet," she said with that infuriating human smile. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. I trust you're enjoying the view?" Admiral Gox Terminus finally found his voice. "This is impossible. Your species lacks the industrial capacity for such construction. Where did you acquire the resources? The technology?" Rodriguez's smile widened. "Oh, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you're properly motivated. Turns out being imprisoned and treated like lab rats really lights a fire under the collective human spirit." She gestured to something off-screen, and the tactical display updated with new information that made my scales crawl. The human fleet wasn't just large, it was sophisticated. Their ships showed energy signatures that suggested they'd not only reverse-engineered our technology but improved upon it. "You see, Admiral," Rodriguez continued conversationally, "while you were busy congratulating yourselves on capturing a primitive species, we were doing what humans do best, learning, adapting, and building things that probably shouldn't exist but definitely do." "Those ships," I interrupted, unable to contain my professional curiosity. "The power output readings are off the charts. How did you achieve such efficiency?" "Oh, that's the beautiful thing about human engineering," said another voice as Marcus Thompson stepped into view beside Rodriguez. "We don't just copy technology. We fix it." Thompson looked remarkably well for someone who'd recently escaped from maximum security imprisonment. His coveralls had been replaced by what appeared to be a military uniform, and his expression held the satisfied look of an engineer whose impossible project had actually worked. "Fix it?" Admiral Gox Terminus sputtered. "Our technology has been perfected over millennia. It requires no fixing." Thompson laughed, that same sharp sound I remembered from our interrogations. "Oh buddy, your tech is a nightmare of redundant systems, overcomplicated interfaces, and design choices that make my brain hurt. It's like you built everything by committee, where half the committee was drunk and the other half was actively trying to sabotage the project." He held up a small device that I recognized as one of our standard power couplers. "Take this thing, for example. 47 separate components to do what human engineers can accomplish with 12. And don't get me started on your user interfaces. Who designs a weapons control system that requires 3 different authorization codes just to charge the capacitors? Our systems are secure," the Admiral protested. "They prevent unauthorized access." "They prevent authorized access too," Thompson shot back. "I watched your own weapons officers struggle with basic firing sequences. It's a miracle you managed to conquer anyone with gear that user-unfriendly." Rodriguez stepped forward again, her expression growing more serious. "But that's not why we called, Admiral. We have a proposition for you." The bridge went quiet as everyone leaned forward. In my peripheral vision, I noticed that our own weapons officers were subtly running through combat readiness checks, though I doubted it would matter much against the force displayed on our screens. "You have exactly 1 standard rotation to withdraw all hegemony forces from human space," Rodriguez announced with the calm authority of someone holding all the cards. "This includes your blockade fleet, your monitoring stations, and any other military assets within 50 light-years of Earth." Admiral Gox Terminus reared back as if he'd been physically struck. "Withdraw? From a primitive backwater system? Absolutely not. The hegemony does not negotiate with inferior species." "Inferior?" Thompson's grin turned predatory. "That's funny, coming from the guy whose entire prison system just got demolished by a bunch of supposedly primitive mammals. But hey, if you want to test that theory," the tactical display updated again, this time showing movement within the human fleet. Ships were repositioning themselves into what any military professional would recognize as attack formations. More concerning were the energy signatures beginning to spike across their weapons arrays. "You wouldn't dare," the Admiral growled. "Attack a hegemony fleet? That would mean war with the entire Galactic Council." Rodriguez shrugged. "Would it? From where I'm sitting, it looks like the hegemony started this war when you decided to imprison our entire species without provocation. We're just finishing it." She paused, consulting something off-screen. "Oh, and Admiral? You might want to check with your home office before making any threats about the Galactic Council. We've been having some very interesting conversations with several member species over the past few months." A new voice crackled through the communication system, this one with a distinctly non-human accent. "This is Ambassador Kethvelox of the Altarian Republic. Be advised that the Altarian government has formally recognized human sovereignty and withdrawn from the hegemony accords." Before anyone could respond, another voice joined in. "The Centauri Trade Alliance also recognizes human territorial claims and formally protests hegemony aggression against civilian populations." And another, "The Vegan Confederacy stands with humanity in this matter." Admiral Gox Terminus looked like he was having some sort of seizure as voice after voice announced their species' withdrawal from the hegemony's alliance structure. In the span of 5 minutes, our mighty galactic empire had apparently crumbled like a house of cards in a windstorm. "How?" I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I was asking the humans or the universe in general. Thompson heard me anyway. "Oh, that's the other thing humans are really good at, talking to people. Turns out half the galaxy has been getting pretty tired of hegemony expansion policies. They just needed someone to give them an excuse to do something about it." Rodriguez nodded. "Amazing what you can accomplish when you actually listen to people instead of just conquering them. Novel concept, I know." The Admiral seemed to have recovered some of his composure, though his scales had shifted to a distinctly unhealthy shade of green. "Even if some minor species have been swayed by your propaganda, the core hegemony worlds will never." His words were cut off by an urgent communication from our home fleet. The image that appeared on screen showed chaos, hegemony ships retreating in disorder while sleek human vessels pursued them with casual efficiency. "Admiral," gasped the commander of our home defense force, "they're everywhere. Human ships just appeared out of nowhere. They're demanding the immediate release of all remaining human prisoners and the cessation of all military operations in their territory." "Impossible!" Gox Terminus roared. "How did they get past our defenses?" Thompson held up another device, this one looking suspiciously like a modified version of our own stealth generators. "Remember how I mentioned that we fix things? Your cloaking technology had some interesting potential. Took us about a week to figure out how to make it actually work properly." The tactical officer's voice cracked as he delivered his report. "Sir, we're detecting massive human fleet movements across 17 sectors. They're not just defending Earth anymore. They're everywhere." Rodriguez's expression had shifted from diplomatic to something much more dangerous. "You had 6 months to study us, Admiral. Did you learn anything useful, or were you too busy patting yourselves on the back for capturing a primitive species?" She leaned forward, and her next words carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Humans don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure the fight never happens again. You wanted to see what we're capable of when we're angry? Congratulations. You're getting a front row seat." Admiral Gox Terminus opened his mouth to deliver what I assumed would be another defiant refusal, but Lieutenant Kexvarian interrupted with yet another urgent report. "Sir. Priority communication from High Command. They're ordering immediate withdrawal from all human territories. Full retreat, effective immediately." The Admiral's jaw worked soundlessly for several moments before he found his voice. "Retreat? The hegemony navy does not retreat. The hegemony navy also doesn't typically face opponents who can build a fleet from scrap metal and pure stubbornness," Thompson observed cheerfully. "But hey, there's a first time for everything." Rodriguez checked something on her console. "You have 47 hours and 36 minutes remaining, Admiral. I'd suggest you start giving those withdrawal orders soon. Human punctuality is something of a cultural obsession, and we really don't like to be kept waiting." The communication ended, leaving us staring at empty space while alarms continued to sound throughout the ship. Reports flooded in from across the fleet. human vessels appearing without warning, delivering ultimatums with mechanical precision, then vanishing back into whatever impossible stealth system they developed. Admiral Vex-Korun slumped in his command chair, looking suddenly ancient and very, very tired. How did this happen? We had them contained. We had them studied. We had them controlled. I thought about Marcus Thompson sitting in that interrogation room, casually dismantling our station systems while chatting about human engineering philosophy. About the calm confidence in Rodriguez's voice as she announced humanity's transformation from prisoner to powerhouse. I don't think we ever had them controlled, sir, I said quietly. I think they were controlling us from the very beginning. The Admiral looked at me with something that might have been respect, or possibly just exhaustion. Analysis, Senior Analyst. What are our options? I consulted my data pad, running through tactical projections and strategic assessments. Every scenario I could devise ended the same way. Humanity had outmaneuvered us so completely that resistance wasn't just futile, it was mathematically impossible. Honestly, sir, our best option is to do exactly what they asked. Withdraw, regroup, and hope they're feeling generous enough not to pursue us back to our home systems. And if they do pursue us? I looked at the tactical display, where human ships continued to appear and disappear like ghosts made of metal and malicious intent. Then we learn what it's like to be on the other side of a first contact scenario, sir. And hope they're more merciful than we were. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, staring at the retreating forms of his once mighty fleet. Finally, he activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Vex-Korun. Begin immediate withdrawal from human space. Full retreat, maximum speed. As our ship turned away from Earth and its impossible defenses, I caught one last glimpse of the human fleet on our sensors. They weren't pursuing us. They were just watching. Making sure we left, somehow. That restraint was more terrifying than any threat could have been. Later, in my personal log, I wrote, "Note to future generations, when dealing with humans, remember that they consider imprisonment a learning opportunity, impossible odds a personal challenge, and superior technology a gift to be improved upon. Also, never, ever assume that just because they appear to be cooperating, they're actually under your control. P.S. Update all security protocols." Again.